Good morning, Grace Tribe. It is wonderful to see people joining us. We've got, 3 or 4 dozen people who are on and live, and so I'm happy to be back with you guys. I actually went online yesterday on social media, on Facebook, to post on there that I was going to have to take this morning off very likely as well. Again, I missed yesterday, and we did not have a live broadcast, which was very challenging for me. I don't like to miss them. I've not missed many, almost none. And you hear a crackle. All right, we're going to fix the... and see if that works. Someone's telling me we're hearing a crackle. Hopefully the crackle is gone. If not, I'll just pull out the microphone. We'll just go to raw video. Anyway, I certainly missed hanging out, you guys. I went on yesterday to let folks know I wasn't going to be here this morning, and I just couldn't do it. So I said, I'll see you in the morning, and I'm looking forward to it. And okay, Rob says we're 5 by 5 now. Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know, guys. No crackle, Jim Welch says. Good to see you, Jim. Thanks for showing up. So I do want to chat with you guys today, and we actually have 2 of our nephews who are coming into town this weekend, and one of them, he's 2, is so cute because he's a really, really sweet boy. And I hope you see the comment to leave in the comments something that you are hoping for. Is there something you're hoping for today, this week, this month? Be thinking about that while I'm sort of getting started. But Caleb is 2, and before he goes to bed each night, he gets his PJs on and gets excited to go to bed, and he's tired. And if you ask him if he wants to go to bed, yeah, I'm tired, I want to go to bed, so he goes around and tells everyone good night. And then when he goes down for bed, he doesn't like being there. He throws a little fit going to sleep. So he wants to go to bed. If you ask him, he'll tell you that he's tired and, is ready to go to bed. He'll be happy as a clam going around and telling everybody tonight, good night, so he can go to bed. And then when he goes to bed, he throws a fit. He doesn't want to, I don't want to be in bed. Let me up. I don't want to go to sleep. And the reason is, when you're 2, going to sleep is traumatic. You don't like missing out on stuff. You don't like, there are things you can't see. You're sitting in the dark. You're by yourself. It's not as comfortable. As tired as you are, looking forward to going to sleep, you don't then want to sleep when you start to fall asleep because he's 2. He hasn't learned that little window where you have to fall asleep in order to sleep. He knows he's tired and wants to sleep, and then when he's trying to sleep, he goes a little berserk. And then, of course, he falls asleep and is great. He might wake up in the middle of the night. He doesn't really want to get up, but he cries for attention and for someone to be with him and to know that someone's there. And we've all kind of joked. He says, I want to get up. I want to get up. And of course, it's 2 a.m. or whatever. And so he's coming with his little brother, and we're excited to have him here for a couple of nights. But as I was thinking about them coming, and I've been dealing with some greater pain this week. I'm in a lot of pain. In fact, as I look at myself on the camera, I see one shoulder I'm not able to relax it enough. I'm kind of lopsided. I've just been in a lot of pain. I have a ton of tension in one side, kind of a crick all down one side of my back. But so I'm not very comfortable, and I was thinking about Caleb coming and how difficult it is for him to fall asleep even though he wants to sleep. And it reminded me of Ashley, my daughter, who's now 26. She'll be 27 this year. And when she was a baby, I really felt badly for her. She did not want to go to bed. She did not go to sleep very easily. She was a little sickly as an infant. And so she would be crying to go to bed. She would have a difficult time going to sleep no matter how tired she was. She didn't, because she didn't feel good, she would sometimes have bad dreams when she first went to sleep. So when there were loud noises, or it was too quiet, or there were other activities going on in the house, or there was nothing going on in the house, or it was too dark, or it was too light, or it was too quiet, or it was too loud. I think I already said that. Whatever was going on in the house or not going on in the house was disturbing to her because she was already fighting going to sleep. She had the hardest time going to sleep. She would cry for hours trying to go to sleep. And she often, because of all of the distractions, right? She couldn't see, or it was too bright, or it was too loud, or it was too quiet, or it was too early, or it was too late, or whatever. She didn't feel very well, so she couldn't rest, or she might on occasion feel well, and then she didn't want to rest because she was feeling well. And so as a kind of sickly baby, as she started to talk, she would say, no, don't leave, stay here. She wanted me to stay with her until she fell asleep. The problem was, if I was there with her, she was distracted by me and didn't want to fall asleep. So she wanted me to stay with her to sleep, but she wouldn't sleep as long as I was with her because she's feeling pretty awake because she's sickly. She doesn't feel good. She has some stomach colicky type problems for a while. Now, here's the deal. The underlying truth of that may not be how it was for every child or your child growing up or you when you were growing up. But I, as a inexperienced parent, became experienced of how to get her to fall asleep. If she would lay on her stomach, I would take the palm of my hand and I would put it on her back and I would start to rub her back pretty vigorously. So, it's this overwhelming sensation. So there's this overwhelming feeling of dad helping her to fall asleep. I can't do that with my right arm today. So I'm rubbing her back and rubbing her back. And eventually she would just kind of relent. She would let me just rub her back and she would just lay there. And I would rub it lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. So I'm pressing it first, kind of not holding her down, but giving her that pressure so that she's laying in bed and feeling pressed into the bed. She liked that. And so I would rub her back and get lighter and lighter and lighter, and she'd start to breathe heavy, and I'd just keep it right there. And then I'd make it a little lighter. She could still feel my hand, but it's no longer pressing on her at all. And then eventually I'm barely touching her, but I'm not losing contact. And she's falling asleep. She still knows that I'm there, but I'm no longer keeping her awake. And eventually I am not touching her, but then she stirs and I touch her a little and I let up. And then she stirs and I touch her a little and I let up. And she would eventually fall asleep. I just was lighter and lighter and lighter until she fell asleep. And we got pretty good at her going to sleep pretty fast because she wanted me there, but wanted to be left alone. Wanted it to be darker, but couldn't fall asleep in the light. Wanted it to be quiet, but couldn't fall asleep when it was dead silent. She just could not find contentedness. She wanted me to be there until she fell asleep. She wouldn't fall asleep as long as I was there. So as a improving dad, right? Improving my dadness. Now this was 25 years ago for my almost 26-year-old daughter. I learned how to be present and get her to forget I was there, get her to rest, even when things aren't what she wanted. I had to lead her and teach her and kind of force her to sleep most nights. And we got pretty good at it. Like a myriad of parents before me learned to woo my child to sleep. Lighter and lighter and lighter, ever present until she was asleep, completely asleep. Now, obviously, the key was that she wouldn't notice the change. She could rest if she felt my very physical presence, but she couldn't fall asleep as long as I was pressing on her back. So that transition allowed her to transition from very awake to very asleep. That was the trick. Now, that trick was probably different for every parent. As she got a little older, I had to do a little thing on her forehead. Kind of the same, kind of different. There's a little bit more, she couldn't open her eyes because I'm messing with her forehead. And she got a little bit better. And eventually she didn't have stomach problems. I think she sleeps just fine now. But a parent knows his child is okay even when the child doesn't. And our physical presence is kind of having to be proven constantly so that the child can rest. But eventually, the child's at rest because they're trusting their parents' presence when they don't feel it. See, that's what I did with Ashley. She could rest because she could feel my presence even as she's relaxing. But eventually, she learned to rest even when she wasn't feeling my presence. She learned to trust my presence to rest even when she couldn't feel it. And if we didn't go through that transition, then she couldn't fall asleep. And so a parent knows that his child is okay even when his child doesn't, and can be the source of her feeling okay even when she doesn't feel okay. She doesn't like what's going on around her, but she can feel okay because I know she's okay. That trust factor, that transition of needing to feel close, but then needing to rest without feeling Dad's presence, is much like us with God. The goal in our learning to rest, we're now in episode 319, talking about a more restful peace. And the goal in learning to rest with our Abba Father, our Abba God, the goal isn't to fix everything so that we can be in more restful circumstances, but just to trust Dad, to trust Abba enough to rest because of his presence. Not because everything is fixed, but because we trust the presence of Dad. Listen, much like my little girl who wanted less noise and to be distracted, and less light and more light, and me to be there but me to leave her alone, and ate too much but still is hungry, and drank too much but wants something to drink. I mean, just like that. Almost wanting the distraction, but also wanting to go to sleep. Just like that. We can find ourselves focused on the things that frustrate us, things that cause us fear. We want to feel better in the circumstances instead of resting, or in order to rest. But you and I will always be frustrated when our hope is in restful circumstances. The people who want more finances in order to feel more secure then feel insecure if they have more finances to manage. The people that have less responsibility want more impact, and the people who have more responsibility want less of it. They're stressed out about it. If our hope is in more restful circumstances, what you learn over time is that no circumstances are truly restful. The silence can be deafening, and the noise can be frustrating of the world in which we live. The world, no matter which way it points, no matter how the ocean of circumstances is moving, it's too still for us to fall asleep. It's too turbulent for us to fall asleep. It's too loud, too quiet, too light, too dark. Just like my toddler child, we are not very good at resting in any circumstances, all circumstances are unrestful circumstances. Are you hearing me? All circumstances are unrestful circumstances. We keep expecting God to fix everything so that we can rest, to make our circumstances more restful. And there is no such thing. He keeps instead proving his presence and asking us to trust him for rest, regardless of the circumstances. And we don't want to. We don't want to trust God in his presence for our rest. We want to trust God to make our circumstances more restful. But he knows, unlike what we know in any given moment, that what we're hoping for to be more restful isn't. That as soon as the circumstances change, we're going to be unrestful for opposite reasons. The circumstances, hear me, the circumstances are never restful. If I am distracted by greater physical pain, I don't rest very well. I can't get comfortable. If I can get comfortable, then my mind is going crazy with 1,000 things. We have to learn to rest, not because of the circumstances, but despite the circumstances. We have to have another source, another reason, another hope for the rest that we have. And the hope for our rest is the presence of God, not the removal of circumstances we think are unrestful, because all circumstances are unrestful. We keep expecting or wanting or even demanding that Abba, our father, our daddy, just like I did with Ashley, would fix everything so that we can rest. And he keeps instead proving himself sufficient, proving his presence, proving his loyalty and faithfulness, not by fixing everything to make it more restful, because there is no such thing, but inviting us to trust him so that we can rest regardless of the circumstances, instead of resting because of the circumstances. Do you see the difference? God is wanting you and I to rest regardless of, not because of, our circumstances. And it's hard to do, because we're more like a toddler than an adult when it comes to resting in this temporal world. I would love for my back to feel better today, this week. It really does not feel okay. I'm really not resting very well. But here's the incredible irony. I'm hurting, so I don't rest very well. And then I'm not very rested and I'm hurting, so I don't feel like doing much during the day. But if I do nothing, like if yesterday I was feeling a little bit better for a little while, and I actually thought, well, I can dive into work, which is probably going to be very taxing on my body, or I can not dive into work and sort of preserve my body and not cause any more pain. Try to just prolong the comfort. The problem is if I'm hurting, then I don't work. And now what's happening is if I'm not hurting as much, then I don't work because I don't want to start hurting. And either way, I just do nothing. So what I chose to do is to dive into work while I could. And I had some great meetings. I had some great conversations. I was able to get some things done. And as predicted, my pain level and I don't want to say like emotional stress, but my physical stress and demands of my day increased. And by the end of the day, or not quite the end of the day, by the late afternoon, I was toast. My body could not do anymore. I couldn't hold my head up much anymore. I was in a lot of pain. And I kind of thought that would probably happen. It was a little disappointing. But the reality is, if I'm not going to be able to accomplish what I desire because I'm in pain, and then when the pain subsides, I'm not willing to do what I am able to do for fear of the pain coming back, then neither my pain nor my lack of pain allows me to do what I desire. But if I'm willing to do what I am able to do and trust God with the rest, then I can rest in his presence and I can participate in his work and I can enjoy what he gives me to enjoy. I can trust him in all that I can't do, and I can trust him in all that I can do, and I can hurt in rest, or I can have relief in rest, and Either way, I can do what he allows me to do. So last night, with escalated pain after working all day long, or most of the day, I sat down to post a comment on Facebook going, I'm going to have to take the morning off again from the broadcast. And I couldn't do it. I said, well, maybe I'll be hurting. Maybe I won't be able to get the tripod set up and press the buttons on stuff and hold my coffee mug. And I probably won't sleep well tonight. I'm probably not going to feel like getting up and doing the broadcast. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to be in some pain. Because I've done this to myself again. I didn't rest yesterday. But you know what? If I'm going to be awake and I'm going to be hurting and I'm able to get my junk together this morning, I'd rather do the broadcast hurting than not do the broadcast hurting. So if I can, I'd rather be with you. And so that's what I chose to do. I actually sat down to say, won't be there tomorrow, and instead went looking forward to hanging out with you all tomorrow, because in my heart of hearts, that's what I want to do, and I don't have to yield to the excuse of not feeling like it. And I don't feel like it. But if I want circumstances that will make more comfortable the things that I want to do, and I don't get them, I don't get circumstances that make it more comfortable to do what I actually want to do, then what in the world would keep me from doing it anyway, if I can? It hurts. Hurts to be up with you. Hurt to put this shirt on today. That's all I could do. Sorry, you didn't get dressed up, Mike. You just got t-shirt, Mike. It's about the best I could do. What if we just chose to participate anyway? I want you to really receive that today. What if we just chose to participate anyway? Here's how I feel. I don't feel like doing this, but what if I just choose to participate anyway? I wish I felt like doing this, but I'm going to do it even though I don't feel like it. In the midst of the worst circumstances of your day today, you can choose to worship, and you won't feel like it. But what if feeling like worshiping isn't necessary to worship? What if feeling like trusting God is not necessary to trust him? What if you could choose to trust him, choose to participate, choose to rest when you don't feel like trusting him, when you don't feel like resting, when you don't feel like participating? What if you could just choose to do it anyway? Doesn't that seem like a good idea? Seems like a good idea to me. Seems possible. Seems downright plausible. That's what I want for you. I want you to be able to make choices today that instead of hoping circumstances are conducive for what you want to do, that you will do what your heart truly desires with Abba today anyway. Participate anyway. Rest anyway. Doesn't that sound more mature? My daughter today, this last weekend, actually, not today. I was going to say something else, but I'll say this instead. This weekend, she was in town, and she had a friend who was, someone was graduating, and so she came to the graduation. She was in town. She doesn't live in the area that I live in, and so she was here, and we went to lunch, and we hung out for a little bit, and at no point did she say, well, Dad, I can't sleep for the last 20 years because you've not been rubbing my back. She didn't say that. And so today, she didn't call me this morning and go, yeah, that was another night when I couldn't sleep because you weren't there rubbing my back. I haven't had to do that for her to sleep for a long time. She learned to sleep anyway. She learned to rest anyway. She grew up and learned by my making my presence obvious to trust that she could rest when my presence wasn't obvious. That's, if you're just joining us, that's where we started. That I had to kind of teach her that she was okay because I knew she was okay, even when she didn't know she was okay, so that she could rest and fall asleep. But then as she got out of her toddler phase, she could rest, trusting that she was okay, even when I wasn't present. She falls asleep now without me present every single day because she's 26. So that's a good thing. You want your kids to be able to fall asleep without you present when they're 26. So, and frankly, she was doing that 20 years ago. So I want, as a Christian, to learn to be mature enough to trust God enough to rest when his presence is less obvious. Couldn't I trust his presence and rest in his presence instead of trying to rest in circumstances that never cause rest? Wouldn't that be a more mature way to live this life? That we could rest in the presence of God we don't feel, instead of waiting for circumstances to cause our rest that we'll never feel. Doesn't that seem like a more mature, less toddler-like approach to the Christian life? I think so. I'll say it again. We keep expecting Abba God to fix everything so that we can rest more easily, when there is no circumstance, there is no fixing everything that will cause us to rest more. We just have to choose to trust his presence and rest anyway, participate anyway. That's the choice. Maybe instead of trusting God to make our circumstances more of what we want, we could trust God despite what our circumstances are, because he knows, like I did with her, he knows what it means for us to be okay. And we're more okay now than we know. The disciples started to freak out in the last few days before the crucifixion. Jesus was trying to help them by going, hey, don't freak out. We're going to go to Jerusalem. You're terrified that they're going to kill us. And I'm telling you, they are going to kill me. I am going to be handed over. Prophecy has been clear. The Son of Man will have to be handed over to the chief priests, that I will have to be handed over to the religious leaders. I will be handed over to the occupying Romans. I will be beaten. I will be accused. I will be crucified. I will be absent from you. But don't panic. When I'm gone, when that happens, I'm coming back. And that just terrified them. They keep hearing about his leaving them, about his being handed over, about the volatility of the situation, and he keeps heading straight toward it. He set his face like flint toward Jerusalem, and Peter finally said, hey, no, it's not going to happen. Don't do it. Let's not go. And he rebuked Satan, looked right at Peter and said, get behind me, Satan. So the disciples were like, he's determined to go. He said that it's not going to go well. We can't keep him from going. What do we do? How do we fix the circumstance? And Jesus said, no, you're not going to have more peaceful circumstances. That's the wrong hope. That's the wrong hope. My friends, if you want more peaceful circumstances, if you want circumstances that make it easier for you to rest, I'm here to tell you that is the wrong hope. It's the wrong hope. They had learned to be okay with him, mostly in his presence. Remember when they panicked in the storm, in the boat, and he was napping, and they were like, don't you even care about us? And he's like, oh, you have little faith to think that I don't even care about you. You got me with you. I'm napping. And instead of trusting that I know what's going on, your hope is in the storm. Well, that's insane. Why would you hope in the storm? If your hope is in the storm, you're going to be panicked. If your hope is in me and I'm resting, then you'd be resting. But just so you realize that if I'm okay, you're okay, he rebuked the storm. He told the storm to be still. And then they're terrified of Jesus. Who's this guy in our boat who even the wind and the waves obey him? So they shift their fear. Do you see the unrestfulness? They were unrestful when Jesus was resting because of the storm. And then when he calms the storm, they're unrestful. They're turbulent inside going, who is this guy? That was earlier on in his ministry, earlier on in their discipleship. Now at the end of his ministerial career, he's headed towards Jerusalem, and they've learned to be restful in his presence. Like, okay, we're okay because Jesus is with us. And he keeps saying he's leaving. So they're panicked. They're just like my daughter Ashley was, of going, I can't sleep when you're here because you're distracting me, and I can't sleep when you're gone because I'm terrified of you, of what's happening in your absence. I need you to be here. I need you to be gone. I need it to be lighter. I need it to be darker. I need it to be quieter. I need it to be louder. I need everything I don't have, no matter what I have. That was then. They couldn't rest in his presence when the storm was raging, and they learned to rest in his presence, and they were raging that he wasn't going to be present. He's like, don't you trust me yet? And so he finally said, look, you're misunderstanding the reason I'm telling you that I'm going to be leaving you and then coming back. You keep misunderstanding. I'm not telling you that I'm going to be handed over to the chief priest so that you can panic. I'm not telling you that I'm going to be crucified so that you'll freak out about my absence. He says this in John 16, verse 33. He says, I've said all of these things to you that in me you actually may have peace. Instead of wanting the circumstances to be more peaceful, avoid the Romans, go to the Romans. Avoid Jerusalem, go to Jerusalem. Avoid the storm, go into the storm. Instead of putting your hope in the circumstances, instead of finding rest in the circumstances, I've told you all of this, that the circumstances are going to do this, up and down, but in me, you can have peace. I've said all these things to you that in me, you may have peace. In the world, you will have tribulation. Stop looking for circumstances that will cause rest. Stop looking for more restful, more peaceful, more hopeful circumstances. Your hope will never be there. I've said these things to you that in me you can have peace. In the world you will have trouble. You will have tribulation. But take heart. Do you hear what he's saying? Though in the circumstances, things are not going to go well, but don't lose hope. Your hope was never in the circumstances anyway. Folks, today I'm gonna hurt. My hope is not in how much I can get done if my pain goes away. I'm not over it. I hate it. But I'm not thinking, well, if I hurt less, then I can do something today. Maybe I can do more. Maybe God is still God. Take heart, he says, because I have overcome the world. In the world, in the circumstances, in everything that's carnal, in the temporal, you're gonna have trouble. Stop wanting a trouble-free world. That's crazy. Your hope is not in circumstances being less troubling. Your hope is me being peace in the midst of a troublesome world. I want free of the trouble, and Jesus wants to be my peace. You're going to have trouble today, but you're not going to be alone. I know that may not be as hopeful a statement as I mean for it to be, but my friends, today, in the world, in the temporal, in the carnal, in the fleshly obligations and opportunities of this world, you will probably falsely put, as I will, hope in circumstances you hope to bring about, and you want God to bless you to bring about circumstances that meet your needs. God, bless my effort to do what I need to get done in order to make my circumstances more what I want them to be, more what I need them to be. And he's going, stop putting your hope in the circumstances. Start being okay with me in your circumstances. Because in the circumstances, you're going to have trouble. But I'm your peace, and I'm in you in the circumstances. I'm your peace. I'm in you when you're in the circumstances that are unpeaceful. Do you see it? The world is full of trouble. Stop trying to fix the world to be more what you need. It's never going to be a good source for you. It's never going to work out. Lighter, darker, louder, quieter, with me, distracting me. That's my daughter's hope for rest. But I knew what she didn't, that if I could distract her from everything but me, then I could kind of wean her of my obvious presence and she could rest. And then whether I stayed there for 5 minutes and listened to her sleep, or I snuck out of the room, she was asleep. I knew what she didn't, that she could sleep with it lighter or darker. She could sleep with it quieter or louder. She could fall asleep even though she didn't feel good. She could fall asleep even though when she felt bad, she was wide awake. I mean, when she felt good, she no longer felt bad on rare occasion. She was wide awake, right? I feel great. I don't want to go to sleep. See, I knew she could sleep in all of those circumstances. But I had to, here's what I did. I dominated her perceptions in the moment so that in the redundancy of my felt presence, she could rest. And then I removed the feeling. And she increasingly was no longer distracted by me and could sleep. What if the circumstances God is using to get your attention on him is so that he can then be less and less dominating of your circumstances and you can sleep without feeling his presence? What if feeling his presence or feeling secure in your circumstances or feeling restful circumstances or feeling peaceful circumstances or even feeling the presence of God so that you can ignore the circumstances? What if none of those feelings are really the goal? What if it's trusting him when you feel him and trusting him when you don't? You're going to have trouble today. That cannot be the goal of your rest. It cannot be the source of your rest. In this world, you will today, right now, have trouble. In this moment, you will have trouble. In this day, you will have trouble. In your job, you will have trouble. In your relationships, you will have trouble. In your finances, you will have trouble. And everything that is temporal, you will have trouble. Maybe getting out of that trouble is not the goal. Maybe knowing Christ and trusting him in his felt presence or in his felt absence, you trust that he is with you and for you and enough. The goal isn't to fix everything that we fear or everything that is frustrating, but to trust Dad enough to rest with him in everything regardless. What if you could rest regardless? I told you that yesterday. I said, well, I'm feeling a little bit better, and if I get to work, I'm going to be hurting more later. Or, before I was feeling better, I couldn't do anymore because I was feeling bad. Then I've got good excuses to not do anything. But what if I just chose to do it anyway? What if I just chose to do what I could and the results just aren't up to me? Maybe I'll just do what I can and trust God with what he wants to do with me. Listen, today, I want you to consider the sources of your fear and frustration. Take a moment right now. I want you to think about the sources, the things that are causing fear and frustration in your life. The things that you might be hoping will improve or go your way today. I know this sounds vulnerable. I want you to think about what those things are. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel frustration at bad things. It's okay to feel anxious about things that could be hurtful. I understand that. I'm a little concerned that regardless of my choices, I'm not going to be feeling sharp enough to prepare for teaching that I have coming up this weekend and next weekend and tomorrow with you guys. And I mean, I have stuff to get done. I have ministry partnerships that I need to work on. I have marketing things that I need to work on. I want to keep the flow of encouragement going online. I have people that are in need that need to work things out in their ministry and in their life that I can participate in. I've got stuff to do. I'm a little afraid that I'm not going to, even if I choose to do it, I'm not going to be sharp enough to execute because I'm hurting and distracted. And But so I get it. You're not wrong to feel that way. That doesn't mean that your feelings are right. You're not, let me say that again. You ready? You're not wrong to feel that way. That doesn't mean that your feelings are accurate. You're not wrong to feel sad. You're not wrong to feel afraid. You're not wrong to desire circumstances to be better. You're not wrong to want more for your kids. You're not wrong to want to save for retirement. You're not wrong to wish that you weren't walking through today in pain. It's not wrong to feel that way. That doesn't mean your feelings are right, accurate. I don't mean morally right. I mean circumstantially accurate. In other words, my desiring finances that give me security, it's not wrong to feel that way, but I'm wrong that it'll ever work that way. It's not wrong to feel that way. I'm just wrong that it'll ever work out that way. There is no amount of finances that causes security because that's not the source of our security. There's no amount of temporal impact that will ever really make you feel significant, because you know the difference between the you that is being portrayed and the you that you think you're hiding from people. And because of that, because just what you're doing in one circumstance gets you affirmation, you're not going to ever really feel significance from it, because you know that's not the sum total of who you are. They're applauding the one thing you said. They don't know everything else you've said. They're applauding the one thing you've done. They don't know everything else you've done. So you're never going to get significance from other people. You're never going to get security from finances. You're never going to feel better about you by anything that you do, because of everything else you've already done and everything else you already think and everything else that's affecting your feelings. Those things are never going to be your source. You're not wrong to feel that way. That doesn't mean that your feelings are right. I hope that makes sense. I hope that you'll write it down. You are not wrong. Don't be condemned that you feel that way. But that doesn't mean that your feelings are accurate. So the goal really isn't that God would fix everything so that I can have rest. Fix everything that we fear. Fix those things we're frustrated with and what He's put on our heart to do. Our goal isn't that He would fix everything. That's never going to happen, my friends. That's a false gospel, a false doctrine, that if God loves you, He'll fix the temporal that's going away anyway. No, if God loves you, then He's going to increasingly woo you to trust Him despite whatever's going on in your circumstances, because He is a worthy source, a worthy hope, a worthwhile peace, a true conduit of love and grace and fruit and peace and joy and sufficiency by grace in all things. He's the truth, not the circumstances. He's the hope, not the circumstances. The goal isn't to fix everything that we fear or are frustrated with, but to trust God enough to rest with Him in them regardless. Maybe you rest with Him anyway today. So if you consider the things that you're fearing or frustrated with, are you needing the circumstances to go your way in order for you to be okay? I know how vulnerable that is. I really do. I know that the things that you're really afraid of, you don't want to go, even if that doesn't go my way, I'll be okay. I know that that sounds so risky. That feels so risky. Those things that I'm trying to overcome that are causing frustration in my life, or could be obstacles, that if that doesn't go my way, I'm still okay. I know how vulnerable that is. I'm just daring you to choose to trust Him anyway. Someone asked earlier, so then how do you rest? This is it. You stop trusting Him for what you want in your circumstances, and you start trusting Him anyway. That's so tough. I totally get it. I totally get it. Like, I don't have anything else to say about it. Like, that's the thing. You have to be willing to say, even if then you're enough. Even when, then you're enough. Even where, then you're enough. Are you needing the circumstances to change in order for you to feel okay? Instead, I would just challenge you to remember that your peace is in Jesus, even when you're in trouble in the world, or in the world that's full of trouble. World full of trouble, you in the world, but Christ is your peace in you. He doesn't have to fix what's outside of you to make everything okay inside of you. He's not out there trying to work peace in. He's in you, and you're learning to let him work peace out. You get to walk into every circumstance of your life today, and you are the one that brings the peace. You aren't going to find peace there. You're going to bring peace there. You're not going to find or cause rest there. You're bringing the rest there. I'm really not upset. I'm emotional because I hurt. It's just raw. That's how it works. Your peace is in Jesus, even when you have trouble in the world. Your peace, your rest is in Jesus, even when you have chaos, tumult in the world. You have peace in Christ even as you walk this world full of trouble. Your hope is not troublelessness. Your hope is Christ in the troublesomeness. Not him in the troublesomeness, actually him in you in the troublesomeness. Peace in him in you in the world, and the world with trouble. That's going to be the divine life. Your peace is in Christ. Christ is in you, and you're in the world. The world's full of trouble. My peace is in the person of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is within me. I am walking in the world, and the world is full of trouble. That's the condition of my rest. If you want rest, it's going to be in a troublesome world. If you want rest, it is going to be Christ, who is your peace, who is your source, who is your rest within you as you are in the world and the world is full of trouble. You will only have peace in a troublesome world. There is no other place for you to be right now. You will only have peace in troublesome circumstances because all of the circumstances are troublesome one way or the other. The people who don't are striving, who don't have what they want are striving to get what they want. The people who do have what they want are striving to figure out why it's not good enough. The richest people on the planet are the most miserable people because they have nothing left to gain and still are not satisfied in it. Let's not make our goal what is the most depressing thing for the people that already have it. Do you see how insane that is? Let's just choose to trust and rest and walk with Christ anyway, because he's our peace. So yes, peace is in him, and he is in you, and you are in the world, and trouble is in the world with you in the world, but that's okay because your peace is in him. And Jesus in you is greater than he that is causing all the trouble in the world. Listen, paramount for every dad is for his child to rest well. There's not a good father who's ever lived in the history of dads that hasn't wanted his kid to rest well. That's what every good dad, even mediocre dad, ever has wanted for his kids. So that's what God wants for you. He wants for you exactly what I wanted for Ashley. And I didn't go turn the lights up, and then when she complained about it being bright, turn the lights down. When she complained about it being dark, turn the lights up. And when she complained about it being bright, turn the lights down. When she complained about it being loud, I didn't make everything quiet. When she complained that it was too quiet, I didn't make everything loud. I actually did not do what she wanted me to do. I just let her know my presence, and then I let her fall asleep as my presence became less obvious. Just like that analogy that we started with. If you missed it, go back and listen to the beginning. But just like that, his hand is upon you. Your Father's hand. Loving, powerful, all-knowing. He knows better than you, so he's not going to do what you want him to do. But his hand is upon you. His life is within you. His presence is never leaving you. He is never apart from you. Maybe it's time to trust his presence, whether you feel it or not, for rest in circumstances that will never be restful, so you can rest in him anyway. Maybe you just rest in him anyway. In the temporal, I'm tired, but I'm going to rest in him anyway. In the temporal, I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm going to rest in him anyway. And I'm going to have joy anyway. I have a great excuse to not be joyful today, but who wants to not be joyful? Do you hear what I'm saying? You have great excuses for being miserable, but who wants to be miserable? Maybe we just enjoy God anyway. Father God, I always want to be free from storms. I never want storms. I never choose storms. Father, I don't want the storms. But I can, instead of yelling at the wind and the waves, trust you, who is my peace in the storm. You who is at rest in me as my source. Help me embrace you as my peace instead of wanting you to give me peace from some other source. God, let's solically nap together today in the midst of the tumult and the wind and the waves of circumstances that I don't really have any hope in, that will never be causing rest for me today. I'm going to enjoy you anyway. I'm going to rest anyway. I'm going to have peace anyway. I'm going to participate with you today, Father. Anyway, I pray that for everyone who's listening. Amen. My question of the day for you guys is this. Here's the question of the day. You ready? Why do we find it so challenging? Why do you find it so challenging to embrace Jesus as your peace instead of wanting him to simply change your circumstances to be more peaceful? Why is that so challenging when you've never in your life had truly peaceful circumstances? They're never a good source of peace. And so with that in mind, here's the real question. What would trusting him instead? What would resting with him anyway? What would walking with him anyway? Right? Despite the circumstances. That's what I'm trying to convey. What would resting anyway with him look like for you today? I mean, practically, it means that you're walking through something you don't want to be walking through, but you're going to choose to rest anyway. It means you're dealing with something that you wish you weren't dealing with, but you're going to choose, out of your trust in him, to rest anyway. You're walking through things that you wish you didn't have to deal with, but you're going to trust him anyway. The things that you fear might happen, but you don't have to fear them. The things you're frustrated with might still be happening, but you don't have to operate out of frustration with them. Maybe you have joy and peace and rest anyway, because your source in Christ is not daunted by your circumstances. Maybe you rest and rejoice and walk in peace and love people anyway. What specifically would that look like for you today? And dare you be vulnerable enough with him to say, God, it's going to be you and me enough for me today anyway. Share your thoughts, share your comments, share your questions, because tomorrow we're doing a pajama party Thursday morning, we're going to be wearing pajamas and doing Q&A. So please wear your pajamas because I'm going to be wearing my pajamas. We're going to be drinking coffee, wearing our PJs, having a little PJ party Q&A right here on Mike Q Daniel live, and have a little grace and coffee and pajamas and Q&A together. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that you will very deliberately pull out your favorite PJs. Maybe you take a photo of you in your PJs and post it in the comments tomorrow. Put on the fuzzy slippers, put on the big robe, whatever you got to do. It's a pajama party. We're going to talk a lot of grace, probably drink a lot of coffee, and have a little Q&A pajama party tomorrow. Just thought it'd be fun to do. I'm going to do it. You should do it. We'll kind of laugh at each other in it, and we'll have a good time doing it. Some of you I know are going to fix your hair and do your makeup and put on your best PJs in the morning and show up and take photos of yourself. Try not to do that. Stephen Dyke, my hair will be in rollers. That I've got to see. So, you guys, I hope that you will do it. That will be awesome. All the kids are doing it. If they can go to class wearing their PJs, then you can sit on the broadcast with me wearing our PJs tomorrow. I just thought it would be fun. Share your questions, share your comments, share your thoughts on today's topic. Thank you for your prayers for me. The reality is my circumstances are not okay. My body is not okay, but I am not my circumstances. I am not my body. I am choosing as often as the Spirit reminds me and invites me. I want to choose to be okay today anyway. Love you guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, let's make today knowing Christ. In the good and bad circumstances, he's always good. Let's know him more. Let's grow in grace. Let's go love people like crazy, because it's exactly what he is going to do, and he'll use you to do it if you'll let him. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Lord willing.